I first met Brook in 2008 at a sacred music conference that I had organized way up in the North Georgia mountains for harpists who played in church. And Brook flew all the way from Shreveport. We met and we immediately became good friends. I could sense a kindred spirit in Brook, and through the wonders of the internet, we were able to continue to grow our friendship, even though I lived in Atlanta and of course he was in Shreveport. Our friendship deepened over the years, and we worked together on some musical projects. We traveled and attended harp conferences around the country and even did some harp shopping together, which was something Brook loved to do. I counted him as one of my dearest friends, and our common interests were eerily similar. We sometimes thought that we were twins separated at birth, but considering that Brook was somewhat younger than I, the math doesn't really work out for that. As most of you know, Brook was a very humble man and did not seek any attention for himself. And although he was already an extremely accomplished organist and pianist, and he also played the flute and piccolo extremely well, he took up the harp when he was in his 30s to fulfill one of his lifelong dreams, as he said. And as a harpist, he loved to play in church, but he also preferred to stay in the background, and he volunteered regularly with one of the local hospices to play for patients and at a facility for the disabled adults. In fact, he did his master's thesis about his work at the Holy Angels, a residential facility, and working with adults there. Now, as a musician, Brook could play anything by ear. He could just sit down at the piano or the harp or the organ and just play anything without needing written music in front of him, and he could do it beautifully. He did like to record on his phone some of his arrangements, and at some point he shared with me some of his harp pieces that he had written on his phone. And I thought, these are incredibly beautiful, and I asked if he had written them down, and he said, oh, no. And I started bugging him to write them down, primarily because I own a music publishing company. I would like to publish his music because I think that the harp world would love hearing these pieces. But he was very humble. He insisted, they weren't good enough. So I finally threatened to get on a plane to go to Shreveport and told him I was going to bring my laptop with my music notation software, and I wasn't leaving his house until he let me write them down. And I don't think he believed me, but that's exactly what I did. I set myself up in his living room and told him I would even change my return ticket home if he didn't cooperate with me. So I managed over the course of the next several years to coax out of him at least 5 pieces that he actually wrote down and that have been published through my music company, Seraphim Music, which has been a great honor for me. And in spite of Brook's humility and his desire to stay out of the limelight, his music has become extremely popular with harpists literally all over the world. It's distributed by all the major harp companies, and harpists in Europe, Australia, Canada, South America, New Zealand, and many other countries, and even recently Japan, are playing his music in churches, nursing homes, hospices, and in concerts. And some of his pieces have even been listed on the top 10 bestseller lists for some of the music companies. I got an email just yesterday from Sunita Stanislow, a harpist in Scotland yesterday, and I wanted to share what she said about Brook because this describes him perfectly. Sunita said, Brook was such a gentle and kind spirit, and so humble. He had a certain glow, as if you could almost see an angelic aura. This is so rare. A kind and humble and gifted man with a big heart. And just this morning, Christy Lynn Murray, a harpist from South Africa, gave a touching musical tribute to Brook live on YouTube, talking about his life, playing his music. And even though Brook did not seek fame or recognition and really didn't want it, I think it would have pleased him to know that his music is being used to minister to people and touch lives, which is what he did best. He loved the harp, and he loved people, and most importantly, he loved God. He let the Holy Spirit use him as a conduit for music, which I feel came straight from the throne of God. And as incredibly sad as we are right now that he is no longer with us on earth, I know that he must be in that very throne room right now, playing the harp in front of the God that he loved so much. I'd like to play for you now one of his most popular compositions, which has actually made him pretty famous in the harp world. He would be so embarrassed right now if he knew I was saying all this, because he just didn't like any kind of fame or glory. But you know, the Bible tells us we will be known by our fruits, and Brook was certainly known by all of the fruit that he produced. This is a piece based on Psalm 137. It was called Upon the Willows, which Brook dedicated in memory of his mother. The part of the psalm that Brook quotes is as follows. By the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down, yea, we wept when we remembered Zion. We hung our harps upon the willows in the midst thereof. And yes, it is a psalm of lament, and Brook may have hung up his earthly harp, but he has taken up a far better heavenly one, and is no doubt rejoicing right now with the angels in heaven. And just as a quick note before I play, Brook actually visited me right after Christmas last year and came to this church where I am the organist here, St. Bridget Catholic Church in Johns Creek, Georgia, and played this harp that I'm playing on now. And Brook always had little nicknames for everything. Some of you may know that. And when he saw this harp with all the gold, he immediately named this harp Goldilocks. So for Brook, I'm going to play on Goldilocks, which he named and played Upon the Willows.